All right. And looks like we are live. Hey, everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, just sitting here drinking my morning coffee, looking sexy as hell as usual. And let's get a good little stream going. Coffee chats have been doing decent lately. They take 10 to 20 minutes to really warm up, right? You get almost no one in here, and then they just kind of pop off. So you got to give them just a little bit of time. And it's mostly on the tubes. They get views after the fact on Facebook. I guess it depends on who rolls through. But I got all my trash out, recycling out, all that done just now. So we're just gonna focus on this, and the sun will come up while we're doing this, of course. And yeah, the Amazon wish list is all up. People think that's silly, but I get protein and stuff out of it. So you know, people buy proteins, fish oil, coffee. I'm not gonna complain. I had someone buy the coffee. I answered a bunch of their questions in here one day, and they bought coffee. So all right, cool. Just as a thank you. But non-training day, so I'm gonna run here later. We'll do a running vlog, and I'm pushing a lot of volume on my training days. So I'm not that worried about doing much on the off days other than running, a little bit of shoulder mobility stuff. It's kind of been the name of the game, you know. I feel like I can cram enough stuff in since I'm not worried about cardio other than sled work after lifting. You know, I don't feel like I have to limit what I do in those full body workouts. So if I want to come in and do, a bunch of bicep and tricep work at the end before my sled, it's all good. You know, in fact, I may take up some of that press down volume whenever I feel like it. But definitely, you guys saw the changes. I'm definitely sticking with the easy bar for the extensions. I've been getting really strong at those. Like it's just been climbing, and then I go to the straight bar and it feels horrible. So for me, I guess just my elbows really like that easy curl bar when I do laying extensions. And I may just leave it at that same weight, 145-pound plate on each side of it, and just build up to 20 rep sets or something. I'm hitting 15s now. Um, you know, because I bench so heavy all the time, feel like that pump work for the triceps, even if it is progressive overload, still really useful. Right? Really useful. Plus the dips, I'm going to put a lot of focus on that because that seems to do the most for my bench press. Honestly, dips seem to carry over really, really well. Good morning, Ryan. How you doing, brother? How you doing, Ryan? Of course, we're on both streams, but Ryan drops in both. I'm trying to get it to where these are just more lively, even to where they're less censored in general. But it's not letting me do anything else with the block list. It's telling me there's no one on it. But I've tested it. I went and blocked someone who was kind of trolly to see if they appeared on the list. They still no one in it, and then I unblocked them, manually from their thing. I'm hoping, right, that it will fix whatever bug is with it. Because quite frankly, as long as people can follow some basic non-stupidity, I'm okay with not banning people. You know, I just need them to, even haters and trolls, to follow a couple of minor rules if they want to be able to stand here and hate on me. Yeah, I think for a lot of them, they hate me enough they would do it just to be allowed to hate on me. Right? They would probably follow a very simple list of rules just if they got the ability to stand here and call me a cuck or whatever 10 times in every stream. It would be worth it to them. Yeah. It's crazy. If someone is 5'11" and weighs 74 kilograms, why are you using two different things, man? That's a very strange. Why are we using inches and kilos? That's just funny. How much weight do you think they need to gain to look like they lift? I don't know. The question is not how much weight, it's how much muscle. Okay. You gain all the weight in the world and not look like you lift. All right. Let me punch that in because I'm still waking up, my friend. So me doing kilos in my head. 74. Let's go. All right. It's too early for me to do math. So 163 pounds. That's pretty light. If you were really, really, really lean, probably still another 10 pounds of body weight gain, Benjamin. Here's the other thing I always tell guys, instead of focusing on how much weight do you need to gain to look like you could lift. Just keep lifting weights till you look like you lift. Yeah. Yeah, right. It says, I never understood the hate you get. It's strange. I hate an obsessive over an internet person. If you don't like someone, I just ignore them. Well, I think that's a difference, Ryan. You're someone who's a long-term follower. You've had video calls with me because I'm your coach. You get a different perception of me than the weird circles. Keep in mind, they've created their own legends, their entire legends around me that aren't based on reality, or loosely based on true stories that they've completely distorted. So they've created, it's not me they even hate. It is a effigy or a persona they have created that they hate, And it's still weird. Don't get me wrong. It's still a form of psychosis. But at the end of the day, it's really not even me they hate because they don't actually know me, And the ironic thing is, it's one thing if you hate something someone represents, but in this case, they don't even know what I really represent, right? They've kind of missed the boat. Unless they want to jump on political stuff, my pro-firearm stance, which I'm fine. Like if someone wants to hate me for that, okay, fine, because that is something I'm actually passionate about. It is a controversial belief that it's a hill I'm willing to die on, though. Like I'm literally willing to die on that hill. If there's one thing worth fighting to the absolute death over, it is Second Amendment, right? Like that is literally worth, if you have to, giving your life to protect. So, so that's a hill I'm willing to die on. So if they want to hate me for that, that's a valid reason. Like you stand against that position. Okay, fine. But other stuff, really, I stand for fitness. I stand for healthy eating. People should lift weights. They should get really strong. They should do cardio. They should eat a healthy, balanced diet. That is the only other stuff I'm truly passionate about. So it's quite strange, isn't it? All right. So Benjamin says I'm 5'11", and I weigh. Well, did I do the math wrong on 74 kilos then, Benjamin? You're so yeah. You could recomp. You could just stay in that weight range, dude. You could sit at 175 and get lean. So do the math on it, man. If you got down to 10, 11%, 12% body fat at 175 at that height, people would think you'd lift, right? But I'm gonna be honest with you. When people give their heights, I just don't believe them anymore on the internet because I'm the same height as every dude who claims 5'11". Every single person who claims 5'11" or 6 foot is eye to eye with me, and I know for an absolute fact I am only 5'9". Like I know it beyond all shadow of a doubt. So no offense intended, but I just don't believe people on the internet when they give a height. And maybe they really do believe those numbers. Okay, we're like 5'11". Okay, fair. But that aside, that's still pretty good size. And looking like you lift versus people really stopping and saying something are two different things. So if you're wanting to just look like you're in shape, like people see, yeah, that guy lifts, he's in good shape, right? That's what we're talking about. Keeping in mind, I'm walking around at 209 and probably a lower body fat than that. So it's going to be a little bit of a difference of how I'm perceived in person, right? So yeah. You know, but realistically, that's not a realistic number for most people. Not a realistic number. Um, mm, so yeah, you know. So I try to give that info based upon my observations of the world. I don't necessarily use myself for it. Because again, the internet has been a strange, like the internet's been a really strange place for me in regards to this because the response online is so different than what I'm used to. Like people thought that I worked out before I worked out. Before I started lifting weights and I just was a runner and lost weight, people thought that I worked out. They thought I lifted weights and I didn't at all. So, um, so yeah, the internet's a strange place. But no, back over the internet distorts reality, right? You know, so it's all come online, and I will see people who talk about you have the worst genetics, you look like shit, and I, in real life, I pretty much get treated like I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger, other than not the actor, but you guys know what I mean. It's just really funny. So it's such a distortion between what I deal with in the real world versus then coming back to the internet. It's such a strange divergence between the two. Peppermint says coaches. Awesome, Peppermint. Yeah. But back over to your point, Benjamin. Yeah, dude. So a lean 175 at 5'11", people are going to think that you lift. You know, they're going to at least know that you're in shape. Now they're not going to be like, dude, you're swole. Like, so what are you looking for? Like, do you want people to say, hey, that guy's got a good body, he's in shape? Or do you want them to be like, man, he looks cock diesel as a motherfucker? Well, you're going to need to go on some steroids for the latter. You're not going to do that natural. Let's just be honest. You're going to need to put on about another 40 pounds, 50 pounds of muscle. Yeah. I didn't realize, but the pec minor isn't the upper chest. It lies beneath the pec major. I never do this. I always thought the pec minor was no, the pec minor is a very small muscle. Yeah. Like, so if you think here, this is all pec major, right? Right here, this is pec major. So even up to here, that upper teddy shelf. So I think that when you say look like you lift, we do need to differentiate between that. If you want people to say, man, that guy looks like he's on a shitload of steroids, you probably need to do a shitload of steroids. Right? So it depends on what are you defining. On camera, my arms, as Brian says, I'm almost the most muscular guy in the room, especially as I've leaned out. Yeah. Well, Ryan, it's hilarious because, you know, I'll come online and people are like, you have stick arms, you have deer arms. But if I'm out in a t-shirt or a short sleeve shirt somewhere in public, women will compliment my arms. It's hilarious. So it's like the internet versus reality is so distorted. So Benjamin says, I just want to look fit and athletic, not crazy big. So a lean 175 at your height, you'll be there, right? Yeah, the internet versus real world. It's such a stark contrast, the internet versus real world, you know? Yeah, you rep 315 on the bench, it would be impossible not to have, right? But it's because of the size of my back and chest, which has always been the case. Like that's because of the size of my rib cage and collarbone. Like those would be big if I stopped lifting. I could walk away and never touch a weight the rest of my life, and that's going to be big. So for me to have the athletic physique people talk about, I would have to stop lifting weights and just do curls and cardio. So for me to get that physique that people discuss, I would have to live on nothing but arm isolation work and cardio and stay as far away from compound movements. Do not touch my chest, do not touch my back, right? To get that look. Harthel, I seem to recall that name through here before. Yeah. So were you previously banned? I'm trying to see if anyone who was banned is able to post again. You don't think? Benjamin, you missed the point. Chest and back can make you, but how big? Like, do they need to be the size of mine? Do you see the issue? So I don't think you understand what I mean. My chest and back, if I never touched a weight the rest of my life, would be bigger than yours are at the 175 you're talking about. They would shrink down to a little bigger than what you're shooting for. If I just stopped lifting and did nothing but curls and cardio. Make sense? So I would have to do arm work just to stay proportionate. So if I were to want that look, I would have to do nothing but arm isolation and completely stop training anything involving my torso. No pull-ups, no push-ups, nothing. Right. Because I'm familiar with my own structure. I've had it my whole adult life. Same thing with calves. I would still have bodybuilder calves. I stopped training legs and just did sled work. All right, let's come over to Pav's question. Any recommendations for a power building 4-day split? I'm 38 and have been lifting weights since 17. Still over. It's just most of was diagnosed with a variation of CISP a couple of years ago. And I really have to watch fatigue. 3 to 4 day power building. Bro, why don't you just do a 3-day full body and just keep the volume low? Like, honestly, Pav, because of that fatigue situation, dude, I would just do a basic full body. Do 3 or 4 exercises a workout. Go home. 3 days a week. So look at something like I've got to get a vlog up later today for Charles. Something like what Charles does wouldn't be bad. And if you need coaching, I'd be happy to coach you with it. I got slots. I've got Ryan on full body. Ryan's over here hitting pretty good numbers while losing weight. He's down almost 100 pounds, and the strength is just trickling up. But Ryan, you probably do a little more than he might do, because we do usually right now where he's wanting to go back over to conjugate. But we do a full body with a training max on the big 3 for Ryan. He supersets chin ups and dips, does 1 set of front squats and reverse hypers, and gets out. Like, that's his whole workout 3 times a week. He's about to bench 315. Real close. Nice work. Yeah. But Ryan was over 300 pounds. Sky Boo says, have you suffered from any injuries like shoulder joint? Boo, I've had shoulder impingement in the past from overuse. But I don't know how that's relevant or helpful to you. I've also 20 something years ago, I ruptured my bicep and had to have it reattached. No, not shoulder joint specifically. No, B, do you not know what an impingement is? So I think there could be a language barrier here. An impingement is generally a pinching of one of the rotator cuff muscles, one of the 4 rotator cuff muscles. So no, I've never actually injured a shoulder joint. All right, let me hop back over to Facebook, the tubes. Michael says the Mind Pump podcast said there between building muscle and just doing cardio and weights and rest times between sets. Should rest time be the same for compound lifts as isolation? I don't understand your question. The Mind Pump podcast said the difference between building muscle and just doing cardio with weights is rest time between sets. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I'm just going to call fucking bullshit on that line if that's what they said. They sound like fucking idiots. All right, should rest time be the same for compound lifts as for isolation exercises? Depends. Generally, you're going to need longer to recover for bigger movements between sets, just due to the overall systemic fatigue. Right. Oh, okay. I'm trying to relook at what you wrote. That's such a confusing statement. Let me restart. I'm still on my first cup of coffee. Because I thought it said just doing cardio. I didn't see the part with weights. It's like, I read it as the only difference between building muscle versus doing cardio is rest time between sets. I'm like, yeah, I can assure you my running is nothing like my lifting. Here's the problem even with that statement. The first set is at least 50% of the muscle growth. So how could that be true? So if your first set is close to failure, even if you take shorter breaks, you're still going to make like 50, 60% of the gains you would have made. I will agree short rest times probably produce no muscle growth. And I think that's fair. If you are losing so many reps that you're nowhere near your previous unfatigued failure, you're probably not gaining muscle from those sets. So in other words, let's say you do a 12 rep set to failure, and your rest time is so short you can only do 6 reps or 7 reps on the second set. I do think it's reasonable to say you gained 0 muscle from that set. It was a complete waste of time, other than doing cardio. That's a fair statement. But it's only if we're losing performance set to set. Hey, Pav, you can go to the previous week too. Charles has one up last week also. I'm not Charles. Alex. Why am I saying Charles? I'm not awake. So Alex's vlog. I need more caffeine, guys. Michael, can we get away with? Well, in theory, but if you're trying to gain muscle, you shouldn't be taking short rest times. You need however long you need to replicate sets is what you need to do. Does this make sense? Otherwise, you're just not gaining muscle. So I would tell you, so if you're like, well, I want to do X amount of work, then you need to take more time, right? You don't cram more work in with more work density, because if it's compromising set to set performance, yeah, you are gaining less muscle. Now, you might be getting better conditioning, but you can go push a sled or go run for conditioning. I don't really do, unless it's like a reverse hybrid, I don't do less than 3 minutes between sets, even on curls. Just for me personally. And the data supports that. So I would say to someone, if you want shorter rest times, ask yourself why. What are you trying to get out of it? Like, can we get away with it? You can get away with it, but you're not going to gain muscle. You can get away with it, but not if you're trying to gain muscle. Sure, you can do it. You're going to limit your growth. So I would say to someone simply doing less volume with more quality would be worth more than just trying to do more. You're like, well, I can't be in the gym for 2.5 hours. Well, then do less sets. Mechanical tension is still the primary driver of muscle growth. Um, would you say the barbell incline is a better option than dumbbell incline? We need context, Benjamin. The statement is too vague because they're so different in terms of application and setup. Atlas 42 says, I'm currently running the Wendler 531, rotating out specialty bars for main core lifts every 4 weeks, making great gains and avoiding overuse. If you're getting good progress, and keep running with it. Peppermint said, yeah, bro, just rest as long as you need. You can recover. Let me check the face, but it's just the shoulder joint. If you do a heavy squat, you're going to need a good few minutes. If you only lose 1 rep per set, is that okay? Well, that's reasonable. Coach needs more coffee, right? I think Coach does need more coffee. So I'm going to refill my coffee. Leave that. So if people come through and they're like, oh, there's no one here, they leave. All right. Same for barbell curls. I take 3 minutes, 20 seconds. That's funny. Yeah. Dude, I probably rest 5 minutes between bench sets. So like yesterday, like I did that 315 top set, and then I backed down to 245. I probably took 5 minutes between those sets. But I got 13 reps with 245, all paused. Yeah. If I use the incline as a second chest exercise in addition to flat, would a barbell or dumbbells be better? I only flatten incline per week. I'm going to lean in the direction of the barbell, but it also depends on what you're trying to do with it. See, Benjamin, I still don't have anywhere near enough information to answer that. We need about 20 times as much information for me to give you the correct answer. We're actually at like a 15-minute conversation for me to tell you which one is ideal. Now, when in doubt, just go with the barbell. That's all right. When in doubt, just go with the barbell. Because otherwise we get into a lot of nuance of what you're trying to get out of it. And I'm assuming with dumbbells, you're going to be doing very, very high reps on top of that. All right. Like dudes will incline dumbbell and not even try to get range of motion. It's just like the barbell incline is such a deep range of motion exercise. The idea of getting deeper with dumbbells for most people is unrealistic. Would be interesting to learn about fatigue and hypertrophy stimulus with volume with regards to reps per set. Say you do 2 to 3 sets, 1 to 3 heavy work, and then 2 to 3 sets of. Hey, Pavel, I don't really understand the entire question because fatigue is a very vague statement. Right? Because there's a lot of different things that create fatigue biochemically. Like fatigue is not just a single thing. It's not just like a score that you measure as a single variable. There's different types of chemical related fatigue happening in the muscles and the neurons. And we're getting into pretty advanced biochemistry at that point. It's just not practical for the layman. You're asking, can you mix them? I mean, I mix them. So you take yesterday, for example. I did 315 for 4 reps on the bench, and then I dropped down to 245 and did 13 reps, right, for pause work. I do training maxes and then go do conditioning after, So a perfect example, let's take, I did a double on the squat. I did a triple on the deadlift yesterday, but then I did 5 sets of 25 on the reverse hyper after. And then I went and pushed a sled. So no, we can mix them in the same training. Right. In fact, I did the reverse hypers immediately after the deadlift. So I did 500 for an easy triple. It was not a limit set on the deadlift. Then I loaded up the reverse hyper and did 5 sets of 25 immediately after. All right. But no, we can mix something in one workout. The discussion, I think, when we get into people, you need to remember periodization is largely voodoo to impress your clients and your athletes. And it's also used for mental programming reasons. Peppermint says, Coach, YouTube shot me a whiskey ad. Most of it's based on your search history. In terms of at least my AdSense settings that I set like 15 years ago or set for that. Straight edge, should I had a cheat day yesterday, big pizza. If I had my potassium intake, will I get rid of the bloat? Yeah, drink water, increase your potassium. It's going to take a couple days, man. This is certainly not based on this. Okay. I don't know why it popped up then. I get them all the time too. Like on my Facebook is the same way, right? It does the same thing to me. And I'm at a point I don't even want to see, and I don't want to discuss the reasons of things I've seen in the last couple of weeks. I can't even see alcohol now without like just flashbacks of bad stuff. So to me, that's all alcohol represents. So if I see a whiskey ad roll through my feed, all I see is destruction and death. Like I have flashbacks of negative things at this point. I don't even think I could be around anyone drinking again. Like I used to be okay with that with my own sobriety. I don't think I could sit in the same room with a person drinking again for a while. I haven't cooked with wine in many, many years. It's something I used to do, but I don't keep any alcohol in my home. So Alan, I ban alcohol in my home. I don't allow people to drink inside. I don't allow it inside my home at all. After the barbell row, what's the next best row? Dumbbell row. Pretty good. I mean, my God, there's so many different rows. Rows in general tend to be good. It's fairly hard to go wrong with a row. Pat says, that's helpful. Thank you. I suppose my thinking is around programming and periodization for low rep, higher rep, but got paranoid it will hinder hypertrophy. I don't add in lighter work. I mean, how light? I'm going to be honest, man. If you're doing only triples, you may be limiting your hypertrophy a little bit. Because if you tell me heavy, I assume 1 to 3 reps, right? That's what I classify as heavy. If you can do 6 reps and get stapled after that, that's not heavy. That's medium, that's moderate weight. Right? High rep is 10 plus. But I mean, I do plenty of lighter work. I do 15s for triceps and stuff. I think heavy is triples. Yeah. Like 90%, like 90% of your max is heavy. If you can spend several triples in a row, yeah. But that works too. I mean, I used to do that 10 by 3 all the time. It's not a bad approach, but man. Do I like? No. I hate high rep barbell squats. I'm not saying I've never done them. You guys have seen me do them. You know, do I like them? I mean, that's like asking somebody if they like pouring Tabasco sauce down their pee hole. You know, I suppose like is a very broad statement. All right. Straight edges. 10 by 3 is fun. Just watch you don't get too beat up. Yeah, you got to watch that. Jason, how is it possible for a sub 60 kilogram female lifter to bench 100 kilograms on a massive arch? Genetics, drugs, really hard training. That's relatively rare. Keeping in mind, that's like asking, how is it possible to win the Super Bowl? That just seems so hard. Well, yeah. Statistically, you'll never do it. Right? So essentially, any woman you're describing in that case is from a strength perspective, a genetic freak. She's an outlier statistically who has probably got some really, really good coaching. That's how it's possible. Same thing if someone says, hey, how's it possible for a guy to get a 24.8 fat-free mass index at 10% body fat without drugs? It's called being a genetic freak and working really hard for 15 years. That's how you would do that. In other words, the average person can't actually do it. It's not possible, right? Coach, let's get these likes up. You tell them, man, get them likes up. Listen to Peppermint. Coach, are there people out there who could have won the Super Bowl that got unlucky and wasn't picked? They didn't get involved in sports. But understand the context. The NFL represents absolutely elite athletic genetics. Okay. To even get drafted, you have to be genetically gifted as an athlete. Right? The average person could never work hard enough to get drafted. They just do not have the ability. So then you talk about being drafted versus actually playing. Then you talk about winning any sort of bowl game. So each of these are different tiers of already elite athletic genetics. So anybody winning a Super Bowl from an athletic perspective is probably 1 in 10 million genetics. In terms of overall athletic gifts. So it's like a funnel, you know. But let's be clear. If you make it to a Super Bowl, you're set for life as long as you're not stupid with your money. That is winning a lottery. So if you make it to the Super Bowl one time and you lose, and you're not stupid with your money and you don't just squander it on stupid stuff, you are set for the rest of your life. Yeah, the minimum contract is over 400,000. So if I recall, it's like 400 and something thousand to sit on the bench every year. It's like their minimum. That's like default they have to give you for any team to never play a game. So you show up at practice and sit on the bench at games is almost $500,000 every year to never play. You make it to a Super Bowl and lose, you've probably made 10, 20, $30 million already. To not even win, just to get there. So, right? So every guy showing up and losing at the Super Bowl is already a multimillionaire. They're the biggest loser, right? So yeah, to even make it that far, you're in an absolute top echelon of things like fast twitch dominance, recovery, bone structure, bone density, right? You are pretty much a mutant to show up and lose. You're pretty much an X-Men. Do you know players? Do I personally? I would need to double check. Like, have I been at a party before that had a bunch of players there? Sure. Do I know if any of them made it to a Super Bowl? I haven't researched it. Keeping in mind, I have a cousin who played NFL and has won Super Bowls later as a coach, a first cousin. I mean, I've been to a big party he had with a bunch of his college buddies and other stuff. And his family threw parties that I was invited to when I was younger. So I possibly have, but do I know that for a fact? No. Now, as far as coaching a Super Bowl win, yes, I have a cousin who did. Pretty well documented. He's my first cousin. Not exactly hard to find out. His mother is my dad's sister. You know, and I don't know what they paid him for that, but I'm going to assume coaching a Super Bowl win as a coach, probably a pretty decent check. So Tom Brady is like more than 1 in 7 billion as he won Super Bowls across multiple generations. Yeah. Benjamin, I have links blocked everywhere on my channel. You will never be able to post a link on my tubes ever. So that's a done deal. And I'm going to answer no. If you know who he is and his physique is being posted up anywhere, he's not natural. I don't even need to see who it is. I can already tell you if you are asking if he's natural, he's not. See how easy that is? If you're asking if someone's natural, it's just safe to assume they're not. If you know who they are because of their physique, and it's not because like they're from The Biggest Loser or something, and you're not famous for the loose skin or something like that. So if they're famous because of their aesthetic physique at all, just assume they're on 6 different drugs. And that's a safe assumption. Your life will be a lot better that way. Hey, coach, what's up, Rufio? So just accept it and move on. Like people, I'll say that people like, you're being a hater. I'm like, no, I'm not being a hater. I'm just telling you for your own good, just accept it and move on. I'm not telling you to hate on them. Like steroids is not an insult. it's just a simple reality of the athletic and fitness and bodybuilding world. It's just a reality. Like I'm not saying it is a negative thing. Like I'm not hating on someone. I'm not calling them immoral. That's just how it is. Doing your cardio, cool, Rufio. You know. Now, if you really want me to look, you could actually just say the person's name, Benjamin, because I don't know what Georgie Shore is. Like, this doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know where this place is. So, you know, it's a British thing. His name is Gary Beadley. Okay, let me look. About to teach you fast cardio. Good stuff, Ryan. Good stuff. The problem is I can't tell which ones are photoshopped. He's probably not natural in the possible Photoshop stuff I'm seeing. But how do we know what he really looks like? That's the problem. Like, because I'm looking at that, I'm like, that might be a little photoshopped or airbrush, which makes you look like you're on steroids, right? So anyone who claims natural and uses Photoshop or airbrushes is not natural, because they have digitally altered their pictures to look like they're on steroids. Does that make sense? Is that a good way to look at it? I want to look like I'm on steroids. Well, then I'm going to call you not natural because you look like you're on steroids. Very simple. Very, very simple way to look at it. Any altering of a photo, you're on steroids, because your goal is to alter it to look like you're on steroids. So therefore, we should perceive it as that's a steroid physique. So anyone who uses Photoshop is not natty. Even if they were really natural, they made themselves look not natty. And Photoshop isn't natural. It is a aesthetic enhancing drug. That's a good way to view it. Now, I don't know what the hell this guy actually looks like, because these are all photo shoots. So I don't really know. He's pretty lean in some of the beach stuff. So he's not really big. So a couple of the beach pictures I'm seeing there that people took, he could be natty. Yeah. He's just pretty lean. All right, so I'm off work until Monday. Look at cardio different when I'm not getting paid. No, it's a paid vacation, right? Right. So if I look at the photo shoots I saw of the guy, it's like it says steroids, but it also could just be Photoshop. Then I saw a couple pictures of him out at the beach that aren't altered. These are pictures other people took or whatever, photographers and stuff out there, news people, just or whatever, they're paparazzi or whatever. He could definitely be natural. He's not really big. He's just really lean. Did I doctor? No, those are completely undoctored. And the person who took them can confirm that. So, nope. Which I thought was funny. Like, we thought it was hilarious that there were haters accusing me of doctoring. There were no filters used, nothing. All we did was use good lighting. Those were taken in my bedroom, actually, with just the natural lighting coming through. So no, those were legit unaltered photos. So yes, that is actually what I look like laying down in the sunlight. We talked about doing some Photoshop ones coming up, but we ended up not doing any of that, and I didn't want to continue with a lot of that. I was getting uncomfortable with some of it, so I'll probably do some photo shoots later as I get leaner and stuff. Eventually, some real stuff, but that was just a friend of mine who had a good eye for that sort of thing, right? Who's pretty good at photography, and those were done on one of my smartphones. Those were just straight iPhone on my phone. I still have all the originals on the phone, like I have all of them, and then I've uploaded them. So I still have the original pictures on the phone, and that's what they look like. So the ones that you saw uploaded were uploaded directly from my iPhone in their unaltered condition. So, now, granted, I was on lower carbs at the time. Yeah, the comments I was getting from people. Yeah. So even the OnlyFans, I only sell foot pictures now. And that is actually a thing. Apparently, I have really aesthetic feet, according to dudes who are into that. And it's probably the barefoot training. It's probably just made my feet more muscular. So yes, I get paid for foot pictures, and I'm dead serious. Yeah. Like completely dead on serious. So, which is hilarious because then that's another thing. I do the barefoot running. I do the barefoot training. It's like that could actually feed that if I really wanted it to, as a thing. Yeah, apparently my feet and calves are hey man, I don't judge. You know what I mean, guys? But yeah. How much do you know? Not much, dude. It really isn't much. It's probably less than $100, but it's not work, because some of those people, they pay for an OnlyFans, so you get that, and then they'll want occasional picture, and they'll be like, "Hey, will you take a foot picture for $10?" Well, yeah, I just grab my phone, take a foot picture, and then they just pay $10 for a foot picture. Not a big deal. Yeah. No, you can. I don't care if you guys do the daddy thing. I really don't care. Like, I'm not bothered by gay dudes at all. I'm strictly taco, no burrito, but I'm also not a hater. Yeah, it's a personal choice, man. I've only had one ex who called me daddy. It was hilarious. Yeah. Did your history of fracturing your toes impact the aesthetics? No, I don't think so. You still got to cater to the gay. I mean, they're doing your fitness. They're going to be a big market. They're going to be, and it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal at all. Yeah, I don't kink shame. People like what they like. Which is why I always think it's funny. Like, people try to shame me over kinks that they think I have, and I'm like, I really wouldn't be. I wouldn't care. Like, I just don't think kinks are a problem. But they get my kinks wrong. That's what's funny. They totally have it completely wrong. Like, it's ridiculous. But it's what it is this: the haters are projecting their kinks onto me, and that's what it is. It's their thing, and it's a projection, and you can tell from the stuff they write. You know, it's very obvious. Um, like I said, we all have our things. And dudes would laugh if they really knew what they were. I'll tell you guys my biggest one: women after they work out their sweaty armpits. That is my total kink, like straight up. Like being 100% honest, that is my thing. Like, you know, that's my thing. So, here it goes. So I don't date women who don't work out, by the way. But we'll leave the rest of my personal life off here. So, Rufio, obviously I have. I mean, I just told you that's my thing. So, A, only one, or are you asking me the number? You kind of see the problem there. The answer is obviously yes. So, I mean, keeping in mind I've dated multiple women on steroids. Right. Those are all the time. Right. So, and the word multiple means three or more in the English language. So, for those who are struggling with that exact definition, no, that's not sexy. I've never been with a woman over here. Probably it, Ryan. Don't knock it till you tried it. Right. Um, yeah. See, Rufio, that's it's nothing to do with that. It's the smell. So, all right. What's up, Callum? How you doing? Right. Right. I mean, so for context, I've had at least three girlfriends who use steroids, like that I was in relationships with. So just for context. Callum says, have you get any advice for dealing with impact pain from a contact sport? Any home remedies? Oh, that joint's aching. Honestly, rest, blood flow, protein, probably maybe omega-3 fats. Definitely bump your protein up. Cut any inflammatory junk out. No, I'm definitely not vanilla, boring like that. Mhm. All right. So yeah, So the things to think about is really just controlling inflammation, Callum. So that needs to be the key. Cut the junk out. Anything that's going to cause inflammation, refined sugars, alcohol, stuff like that, get it out. Bump your protein intake, healthy fats, anything that will reduce inflammation will help with that healing process. Get heat to it. Get heat to it. Heat, blood flow. I eat zero junk, high protein. Should I supplement with throw in some fish oil for a few days, a higher amount, an extra strength one. Good morning, Coach. Your veins are like the sunrise time. Sunrise. That's cool. They're not quite out yet. The sun's not up. So I've noticed that it's the sunlight when it comes through that really makes them stand out, apparently. I thought it was just me once I've carved up. But they are more intense in the afternoon. A bit off topic. Do you think it's better to get a girl off or just no? Do you need to get her off? Deuce, I'm not going to discuss that. I obviously have fangirls. Anyone who follows the Facebook would already know that. That's been commented that even under a lot of the pictures, some of the stuff I was putting up, there were dozens of women making a lot of comments. Like, this is already common knowledge that I have fangirls. But as far as meeting up with any, I'm not going to discuss something like that. If one is serious about being consistent with lifting weights, should one consider where she lives, what sort of job they have, and how many hours per week they work? Well, yeah, those are all factors. I mean, I've said many times these are things that I factor in when coaching my clients. I mean, was in here. He's a client. He could tell you. Cal says, "Thanks, bud. You're welcome." Peppermint said, "This has been known for years, right?" It's awkward when a fangirl sends you nudes, though. I'm not going to lie. That is really awkward. And you guys are probably like, no, man, that would be awesome. Like, no, dude, it's awkward as hell. Because it's just like you're not expecting it. It's just like, and then plus you go, dude, you're like, oh, I go hook up. No, you don't want to go hook up with a girl who's randomly sending you nudes as a fangirl. Like, it's probably not a good idea. They're crazy. Like, you got to be careful about that. Well, I mean, and it's usually a really weird way. How do you respond to it? The first time it really happened, like really, really happened, I was very polite about it, but I was also in a relationship. So I'm kind of like, hey, I'm like, I was very polite. She's like, hey, I ran whatever your ice cream fitness and look at my physique update. And, like the fifth picture was a nude, like down the road when she was sending them through DMs. It threw me off because I wasn't expecting that. It was a very simple, hey, you look great. I really appreciate you being comfortable enough to send me that. But like I have a girlfriend, and so well, I appreciate you being comfortable sending that just out of respect for my relationship. Could you not do that? And she apologized, and it was kind of funny. Benjamin, would it be better to work part-time then instead of full-time so you have more time for training? That is a horrible idea. Max, you wouldn't tell us, and that's fair enough. Exactly. I wouldn't tell you if I did. Like, it wouldn't be your business, Yeah. Yep. Because why would you work part-time just for the gym? Like, are you trying to become a pro bodybuilder? So here's my point. You're asking me if something is natural, and you're talking about not wanting to be insanely buff. So the only reason that you would do what you're doing is to try to become a professional bodybuilder, in which case you need to start blasting several grams of gear, growth hormone, insulin, everything now. So yeah, it's a horrible idea. Like, why would you work part-time trying to gain an extra pound of muscle per year? It's just silly. Yeah, Ryan being a client. Yep. Jesse said, Coach, I'm off work for 2 months, 28-year mill. How would you train if you could entirely focus on it for 2 months? I don't know that I would train much different. You can get away with a little more training volume. You know, you could probably get away with a few more really heavy sets, a little more accessory work. So if you have just a normal, super not stressful job, I don't know that I would change anything. Like, if you're someone who has an office job 40 hours a week, I wouldn't make any changes at all. That's not necessary. Um, if you had a fairly strenuous job, I might bump volume 20-25% while you're off. Total training volume. Get more sleep. Focus since no work. You can get more sleep, and high quality sleep will do more than anything else for your training. All right. But yeah, Ryan's getting bigger, stronger while losing weight pretty quickly, and he works long hours in the heat, like he said. Yeah. Hey, Eldis, we've discussed this many times. In fact, my regular fans all know the answer to this. I made a choice not to have children as a result of my severe survival of childhood molestation. I made a choice to not have children. So, should I wear a tighter dress top to show off my biceps at an interview? I feel like health care, being physically fit is a plus. Maybe, possibly, Max. The coffee cup's the same size. All right. Although we're kind of coming over to asking, do you want children? We're getting over into personal life. Maybe I shouldn't answer questions like that. I'm just going to ignore stuff like that. Probably best, because I want to keep my personal life at this point off here as much as possible. All my coworkers are like, how do you do it? Missing workouts are not an option to this point, and I train before work. We make it work. There you go. I mean, we keep Ryan's workouts efficient enough to get that done too. All right. I'm very mindful of his time limits when writing his workouts. Keep in mind I work long hours, and people will laugh and be like, "Well, a lot of this is streaming, but this is technically work." So think about what a lot of you would do at an office job. My streaming is right there at the same level of an office job. I sleep 8 to 9 hours per night. You know, so even the live streaming, think of this in terms of potential of dealing with people, answering questions, setting everything up. Very similar in terms of stress that you would have at an office job. And then in between, I'm making content, all my coaching. You know, I stay up on phones. We'll turn the phone off. Right? Work on your sleep hygiene. Melatonin will help too. Right? Thanks, Coach. That always shocks me, when you have people who their lifestyle isn't perfect. They start talking about optimizing training, and they sleep 6 hours a night. I'm like, the training is the least of your concerns at that point. What are you going to optimize? If you only sleep 6 hours a night, your optimal training needs to be to cut back the amount you're doing because you're not going to recover. So why try to stimulate that much? If I have a client who tells me that they need to have a couple drinks a week and they only sleep 6 hours a night, we're going to work out for 30 minutes because that's what they can recover from. That is their optimal 30, 40-minute workouts 3 times a week. Anything more is probably overtraining with their lifestyle. They're literally just wasting time in the gym at that point. The older I get, the more I realize I'm not 13 and I can't stay up all night, right? Not that I really, yeah. No, man, sleep is critical. And it's not even about gains at that point. Like, this is pretty well researched. People say this nonsense and they act like it makes them tougher because they only sleep X amount. It's like, man, we have all the data. Your hormones are screwed. Like, no, you're not going to be healthy on that. You're not going to be optimal in anything that you do. Your cognition is going to be worse. Your reflexes are going to be slower, right? Your memory is going to be objectively worse. So it actually makes you weaker and more vulnerable. It's not tough at all. If you're literally doing something that's going to make your reflexes and cognition slower and make you physically weaker, it's turning you into a pussy. You're not tough. You're literally making yourself more of a pussy. So, because I've had guys who act that way. I don't do that. I'm like, no, you are literally turning yourself into a pussy by doing it. It's not making you tougher. Because crashing your testosterone, having slower reflexes, slower mind, less memory, and losing muscle doesn't make you tougher. It doesn't make you more badass at all. Right? I think they misunderstand, because I think people see certain things that are done in the military or whatever and think that that's how those guys live their whole life. Well, what about Hell Week for the SEALs? Do you think they really do that year round? That's why they call it Hell Week. It's a test. Right? And look how many of those guys come out of all those programs completely broken physically. All right. You know, and I don't think people are thinking that through either. I'm like, really? How many retired special forces guys have you met? How many of them are just broken and busted physically? Like their body's destroyed from it. Pretty high number. The majority. Right? I mean, hate to have to say it, but they end up being disposable heroes, unfortunately. Right? They should name it Pussy Week to set the right frame of mind to overcome it. Right? Taking a page from my book. I should rename my barefoot running and barefoot sled work bitch ass pussy training. So I'm gonna start calling it. Like if you can't do this, you're like pathetic. Like this is so easy. Like, it doesn't hurt your fetus. And that's honestly, it gets to where that's how it feels anyway. It just becomes your normal. Like people mention that, it's like so funny to me with the barefoot running. Oh gosh, I could step on an acorn. And it's like, guys, come on, you get used to it real fast. Like it just becomes your normal. It's just not a big deal. You know. Now, granted, you guys did see the bloody foot incident. Because I did show the shot, right? I took up and I had blood up all the way up both my ankles and shits. We did have that. Yeah, you ripped us through that. But it's not a big deal, guys. I swear I need to do a round table with that one coach friend of mine. That would be hilarious with David, because we were at a thing and laughing about that, and he's like, because he pulled that. We had a video call like last month, and we were joking about it, and he pulled that. He's just like, and sadly that call was a few hours before my car was hit and all that stuff. Same night, actually, that afternoon. I had a video call, just coach just chatting sometimes, shooting the shit. And he brought that up, and I'm like, he's like, why do you he says, Viata does the same thing. And I'm like, why do you guys downplay this stuff? I'm like, because that's how it becomes your normal. If you think this stuff is difficult, you make it difficult. And to me, it just becomes training. But he said that, he's like, dude, you squat and deadlift like stupid weights, and then you go push a sled barefoot down the street, like on concrete with no shoes. And you just go do random 5Ks with no shoes. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, he's like, dude, you're in your late 40s. Like, do you not understand how stupidly hardcore that is? I'm like, but it's not. It's just a Tuesday. It's just a Wednesday. It's just a normal morning. And the second you start seeing it that way as, oh, this is hardcore. Oh my God, to your feet. It's like, no, it really isn't a big deal. And it's not a big deal to come in and for me to deadlift 500 pounds for work sets 3 times a week. It just becomes my normal. And it's the same thing when you approach your training, this whole psyching yourself up. This is what causes injuries. It causes more overtraining. It causes a negative hormonal cascade post-training. Just get in and lift, guys. Be in the moment. Be mindful. Just lift some heavy weight. It's not a big deal. Stop psyching yourself up. Stop needing pre-workout. Stop thinking you have to have Slayer blaring with a pre-workout to do some heavy deadlifts. Guys, just go in and lift. And I think Matt Perryman was really useful with that, of his data he was pulling on that, showing that psychological arousal negatively impacts recovery from the same sets, right? Because you were creating additional cortisol, additional adrenal response that you don't need. And so when you start looking at that of, hey, I can come do rep work for the deadlift 3 days a week. I can go push a sled barefoot afterwards. Your feet just adapt. They toughen up. You know, Mike, are you sure Mike is the smartest? Yeah, Mike's full of shit. There's a whole lot of stuff coming out about his PhD this week. He is nothing but a salesman, and he's lazy, right? Lazy man. All right, just have my gold standard cookies and cream protein mix with Greek yogurt and a spoon full of natural peanut butter. There you go, nice. Hey, buy stocks. I have that exact thing on my Amazon wish list in the link. Since you buy stocks, buy Coach another tub of that. It's at the sticky at the top. I literally drink that same protein. Sometimes it's one of them in my mix. It's on my list. Hook a brother up. Is it true that leaning forward more on squats engages the hamstrings more? That is a okay. Do you want a 20-minute answer, or is this just a simple yes or no? Using the form that requires you to lean forward more will, in theory, engage more hamstring. I was very careful in my wording. Because you can't lean forward more. Like, you can't do it. Your technique dictates the exact degree of forward lean that you have to do. You don't get to pick that in the middle of a set. That is entirely and 100% determined by your foot position and the bar position on your back. It's not something you can change in the middle of a set with a heavy weight. So yes, hypothetically, the technique that requires more forward lean should engage a little more hamstring in most cases. Okay. Dr. Mike has a black belt and has an IQ of 160. Not sure what you're talking about. I don't know. He's being ripped pretty hard on his thesis. No, Mike is a businessman. You know, he's a businessman. And that's the best way to describe it. I have someone who's a regular here I chat with sometimes too, who's like, yeah, I've been saying for years, he's just a marketeer. And that really is what he is. He's marketing a product. He's a salesman for his own product. And I'm not saying it's not successful. It's been a very successful business venture for him. But you have to understand what it is. A lot of his stuff isn't based on science or evidence at all. It's just simply based on what will help him sell his app the best. Do wider stances require more forward lean? Not by default, unless that wider stance is accompanied with a lower position of the barbell. Right? But here's my question, Benjamin. If your goal is really to maximize hamstring size, is a squat really going to be your best tool for that? Or are we asking, will bigger hamstrings make more difference in those positions because you have a stronger stabilizer? Meaning, if you want to use those positions, should you spend some extra time on posterior chain work to build the hamstrings? And I think the answer is yes. It would be a wise idea. Even though technically the other more, you can bounce off the hamstrings more. So hamstrings and calves matter in terms of weight moved, but they're going to engage them less. Right? Yeah, Nathan said Simon Nelson absolutely cooked Dr. I need to watch it still. I haven't. I've heard it's pretty bad though. You know. All right. Good answer. Do low bar squats require more forward lean? Absolutely, 100%. That was an easy one. See how easy that was? And it scales. Every inch lower on your back that you put that bar, the more you have to lean forward. It will have a direct proportion. So if you were to try 6 different bar positions, every single position lower, you will have to lean forward more. You will have to. You have no choice in the matter. Unless you're using less than your body weight on the bar. Okay. You start reaching your body weight or more, there'll be a direct relationship between those. And you don't really have a choice in the matter because you're going to fall down otherwise. You're going to fail the lift. Right? Because if you fall backwards on your ass, you miss the squat. Like if you fall back onto your ass and hit the floor, you fail the rep. If you fall all the way forward and the bar gets dumped over your head, you fail the rep. So you don't really have a choice. Because where does the bar stay on the squat? It stays over our midfoot. That's your center of gravity. All right, by stocks, I expect to see that cookies and cream be delivered. And I'm about to wind this down. Let me shut down the Facebook. I'm going to be watching for it, bro. I'm totally kidding. It'd be cool if you actually did it. Okay, seems like the way I squat puts more emphasis on the posterior muscles, glutes, hamstrings, abductors. We'll get a running live here later in just a little bit when I'm ready to do it. But love you guys. I'm out. We'll have at least another couple hours of live streams today, though, guaranteed.